You are listening to the Man City Fan Show with the Man City Show. It's so similar. I've mucked it up already, Paul, but here we go. This is the Man City Hour right here on Love Sport Radio. You're listening to me, Charlie Hawkins, and I've been joined in the studio with the wonderful Paul Denby. We are here for 60 minutes talking everything where City are concerned, and there is a lot that concerns them at the minute. The game on the weekend, the Champions League is back after the international break. The title race is on. United, if we can say it, done them a favour. Paul, you can help me out on that one, but there is so much to be talking about, and there is so much to be talking about, so why don't you get involved? Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. You can also WhatsApp on the same number. We're also going to be looking at that game with Villa on the weekend. Speaking to Luke Hatfield, that is still to come. But firstly, it was Crystal Palace. It was 3 points, Paul. It was a clean sheet. And ultimately, I have to say, it was a superb professional performance.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought as well. The first 30, 40 minutes, you sort of thought, is it going to be one of those games? We created loads of chances as usual, and the ball just wasn't going in. We missed a couple of good opportunities, but those 2 goals in a minute sort of changed the game dramatically. I mean, that David Silva goal, if anybody can say there's been a better teamwork goal and finish yet this season, I'd like to see it, because I do see most of the games, but I can't remember seeing one that was finished so well after a break from our own half. But it was effectively, from the second half, again, we created a lot of chances, but I think it was a very professional performance. We didn't have to run around. They had 2 great chances. Ederson made 2 fantastic saves, but other than that, I thought we played much, much better, obviously, than the Wolves game where we lost a couple of weeks before the international break. But we're back to what I'm used to seeing City play. So it was a really needed and very good performance, I thought, on Saturday.
It certainly was, and it was a professional performance, Paul. And you spoke about the Silva goal, and I was wondering where you was going to compare that to. You went, it's the best team goal. I thought, don't say in the last 5 years or 10 years, Paul, but you said this season, I would have to say I completely agree. But when we're talking about Silva, De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, I mean, it's a wealth of riches, isn't it, Paul? But you know, and many radio show, many TV show, many a pundit, many a fan will try to describe these players, but there is no adjective, there is no end to the way I can describe these players. They are elite players, and on their day, to even watch them, and from a perspective that's not a City one, you must be just pinching yourself, because on the form like that, when team moves, 1-0 up, then 2-0 up in a matter of under 60 seconds, and from a Crystal Palace attack, that team goal and just their performances surely highlight, the pinnacle of this team.
They do, and those 3 players that you mentioned, I mean, they're just world-class players on their day. If they could play to their top of their form, they would be, world-class players every single week. David Silva's proved over the last 10 years playing for City what he's like. He's always takes responsibility. Very occasionally he doesn't live up to the very high standards he sets himself, but I think that's now coming with a bit of age. He's never relied on pace, but he's always relied on his guile, and occasionally now you just see him I'm being very critical here, but more occasionally than he used to, it slips. But he's been a fantastic player. I wished he was going to stay for longer in some ways. We all know he's supposed to be retiring at the end of the season from City, or leaving us. But we've got to give Foden the chance. We'll come on to Foden, I'm sure, and talk about him in a few minutes. But De Bruyne to me is world class. There's not a player that can touch him in that midfield area in the world at the moment when he's on form.
His passing, Paul, is almost surgical. It is pinpoint. I've never seen accuracy like it. The one touch crosses. He's not even taken a touch. The game against Everton, the game on the weekend. But just to go back to David Silva, we speak about, and we always do, and rightly so, signings, foreign signings into the Premier League that, we always talk about up there. Thierry Henry, Sergio Aguero, there's many we can name a wealth. David Silva has to be up there with one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League, and I almost feel like he's signing, and the servant he's been for City, because you say he could well be off, either retiring or leaving City, certainly at the end of the season. It surely has to be one of the greatest signings City have ever made.
Oh, without doubt. A lot of City fans, just looking at the Premier League team over the last 10 years, pick out 4 players to compare. Silva being one of them, Aguero, Kompany and Yaya Toure as the 4 sort of through the middle, the players that have been there,
the spine
of the team. Kompany we got for about £8 million, which was a steal in those days. Even David Silva was only, I think, 20 odd £million, which
now in today's inflated market, 80.
80.
Yeah.
If he wasn't his age, if he was in his mid-20s, he'd be an 80, £100 million player. So he's just been a fantastic servant to us, and we'll miss him when he goes. And I hope that Phil Foden can step into his shoes. That's a real big shoes to step into. But Guardiola trusts him. I wish he'd play him a bit more, but we'll see. I'm sure he can do it.
Well, it's a big debate on the terraces at the minute. Guardiola said at the minute he wouldn't sell Foden for 450 million or whatever the figure was, but he's certainly not playing him. But that doesn't mean he needs to play him. You know, if I'm going to bet with anyone, I'd bet with Guardiola. He knows when the time's right. He's going to enter him into that fold when only he feels ready. But I don't want to overstate it or exaggerate the result on the weekend or the game on the weekend, Paul, to be precise. But that 3 points, when Liverpool have started like they had, you know, let's take out the United result, played 8-1-8, fantastic. A little bit, I thought unfairly, or maybe because I do have a soft spot for the way City play, a lot of fans stupidly, 8, 9, 10 games in, Liverpool have run away with it this year. City aren't up to the races. Very hard to win it once, let alone twice, let alone 3 times. Now, all of a sudden, the fickle fans, and we all are, I include myself in this, we turn back and we go, title race, back on.
It's amazing, isn't it? A couple of results at the weekend. Yeah, all we've done is close the gap by 2 points. I found myself in a really difficult position. United-Liverpool at the weekend, cheering a United goal, which I can only do that against Liverpool.
I'm shocked, Paul. I'm hurt. I was as well. Worried.
I was. I'm sure a lot of City fans felt the same way.
I'll give you a pass.
Thank you. No, it was... but to close the gap to 6 points, I mean, you can argue now it's back in our hands because if we beat Liverpool twice with our superior goal difference, we'd go top. I'm not saying that's for 1 minute. There's still 29 games to go. For anybody to say that the league is over, even when they have the 8-point lead, it's ridiculous. Yeah, of course it's going to be challenging, and Liverpool have played well. They've rode a little bit of luck as well. The goal they scored against Sheffield United as Henderson kind of led it through his legs. And a last-minute penalty against Leicester, which, let's be honest, at best was debatable. But that's the way it goes. We've just got to keep winning our games and hope they drop some more points. And the title is not over.
Yeah, I think this isn't a shock to anyone, but obviously me not being a City fan, but this is the City fan show. I find it surprising, and I'm a little bit annoyed now at the people who've jumped on the bandwagon, because honestly, last week it was like, this title race is done, Liverpool have won it. Now people are saying to me today, I think you're right, I think this City can still win it. I'm like, whoa, don't you now, because City got that one result and Liverpool dropped points. They always had to play them twice. The season, Liverpool were never going to continue this imperious form. As if it was City, they wouldn't. It's impossible to win every game. You know, highs and lows of a season. The season is a roller coaster. Europe starts to take his toll. But we mentioned Europe, and it is back this week, Paul, and I did want to highlight the fact, obviously, that three-peat would be fantastic, but a lot of the noise outside of Man City is the one that Pep wants, the one that the fans want, is the Champions League.
I think you're right, yeah. A lot of the fans want the Champions League. The owners certainly want the Champions League. Pep would love it on his CV as well, to show he's done it with 2 different clubs at least, with Barca and now with City. I'd love to do it. There are some City fans, being honest about it, that I've spoken to that think that the Premier League is still what we would prefer to win than the Champions League. I'd love to win them both. That'd be nice, but that's
not that you're greedy, Paul.
No, not at all. But realistically, I would love to win the Champions League because it is the one that we haven't won. So it would be a great achievement. And there is a little bit of luck in the Champions League. Who you get,
any cup competition.
Yeah. Even over 2 legs. I mean, we've been knocked out twice in recent years on away goals. That's where it goes. We know the rules. We know we can't afford to win 4-3 if we lost the first leg 1-0 as we did last season, and we lost to Monaco on away goals. Those are the sort of games when you're drawing. Let's be honest about it. We are a better team than Tottenham. Even when we played them in the Champions League last season, we're a better team than Monaco, but we got knocked out on both occasions. We've got to Guardiola's got to sort that out and find out what went wrong and how we can correct it. I don't mind if we lose to a team that is much better than us, but when we lose to teams that I really consider Tottenham were not as good as us, and neither were Monaco, that's disappointing. So we'll get into that.
I think you're completely right about a cup competition over 2 legs. The better side doesn't always go through. And why we started the show and we were speaking about the professional performance, not only in the performance, but anytime you come back from an international break and you win, you know, you professionally got the 3 points away from home. But also, when there was this little bit of pressure, because, you know, as the pundits and every fan would say, City, they're not quite the team they once were, Norwich fanned them out, you know, Wolves Wolves beat him at home, a rarity for City to lose at the Etihad, 2-0 there, didn't get on the score sheet, you know, and all of a sudden this team, maybe they're past it, he needs to change it up, the core of the side of the one that's been there for a few years, and that was why it was professional to bounce back and mark this international break with that win, because I don't want to say silence the doubt as if there were any, but it does help in that field also, doesn't it, Paul?
It does, and it gives the team confidence as well. Yeah, Wolves and Norwich were both terrible blips. Let's be honest about it. And the Wolves game was actually the worst performance City put out for probably years. The Norwich game was just one of those games where, yeah, they were the better team. We didn't take our chances. We gave them the third goal soon after half-time that killed us off. But the Wolves game was an absolutely diabolical performance, and Wolves did deserve to win. It could have been 3 or 4, let alone 2-0. So to come back after the break and put on the professional performance, it's a confidence builder as well as anything else, I think.
Paul, one of the things you wanted to speak about tonight were the fact that City were missing so many chances. But I think you've had too much glory over the years, too much fun, because I think when you win 2-0 and you're worrying about the chances, enjoy the 3 points. But also, it's the defence maybe that has been City's Achilles heel this season, you know, the centre-backs and conceding goals maybe they wouldn't. Where's that leadership coming from with Kompany being away? Is that also a concern for you, or do you feel like that's being reported or being made worse than it is?
I think the fact that Laporte is out now till sometime in the new year. Stones has been out injured, and Stones, when he comes back, does take a bit of time to get back into it as well. And at the weekend, we played 2 midfielders at centre-back. It can't be right. Some people said we're playing 0-9-1 because our right-back, Cancelo, and left-back Mendy are better in moving forward than defending as well. But it worked for us. Some other better teams might find us out. Is our defence exposed? It's exposed because we don't finish teams off sometimes. When it was 2-0 at the weekend, and Palace nearly scored. You know, the Benteke header was a fantastic save by Edison. That goes in, I think there's about 10 minutes or so to go.
His first touch as well, and that was a great save. It was an underrated save.
It was a great save, great header, great save. But if that goes in, 2-1 with 10 minutes to go, and the Palace fans, game on. And that's what I mean about killing games off. 2-0 to 3-0 is a big difference, because once you're 3-0 up with 10 minutes to go, and if they get a goal back, you're not quite as concerned.
Yeah, you're completely right in that. A player, we spoke at Silver at length, and we spoke a little bit about De Bruyne. A player I really want to mention, who I just think that has come on leaps and bounds from 5 years ago or 3 to 4 years ago, is Raheem Sterling, in a sense that his maturity, his leadership, I think he's the ultimate role model now, the ultimate professional. I think if young players, you should be watching him, watching his tape, the way he acts in the media. I think I can't speak highly of him enough, I think, for Man City and for England. And the fact to me that if I was showing youngsters or the next generation, it's not the ultimate passing or the skills, or in what has he's now almost become a clinical finisher. It's what Pep worked on with him. He had to sort out his finishing. But for me, the whole rounded game, and what was highlighted this weekend, Paul, was the 50-yard or so dash to tackle Zaha when he was on the counter-attack. I can watch that clip, Paul, more than the goals, over and over. A perfectly timed sliding tackle to win the ball back. We know how fast Zaha is. I mean, the commitment, the investment, the effort, and that sort of pays off throughout the team as well, doesn't it?
It does, and that's what Sterling has learned a lot from Guardiola. That defensive run was absolutely fantastic, because he's not known for his defensive capability, but he does run back and he does chase back, and that's what Guardiola demands of all the players. His finishing is a lot better than it used to be, but it still misses the chances where you think, Raheem, that should have been in the net. There was one in the second half where he put it about 3 yards wide. I mean, I don't mind if he gets it on target and forces the goalkeeper to make a great save, but his finishing is not quite the level of an Aguero. I know Aguero misses them occasionally.
I think Aguero's a rarity, though, as well, almost, isn't he?
He is, but if Sterling wants to become world-class, he's got to stick some of those other chances in the net as well.
Well, he certainly does. We're going to carry on talking about City and the return of the Premier League, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about VAR. Might not have affected City this weekend, but it may do in the long run, because VAR, well, it's a big talking point.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
An actor, a journalist, and a comedian walk into a bar, and they're all whining about Donald Trump.
Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button, and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love sport.
You are listening to the Man City Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins, and I'm joined in the studio with the Man City Show podcast, Paul Denby. We are talking everything where City are concerned. A whole hour of your team, your voice, and we were talking that great result on the weekend. Me and Paul both describing it as a professional performance, and that's exactly what it was, and a few sublime performances from City's key men, just what they needed after this international break. We're going to be talking about that game with Aston Villa on the weekend and seeing if they can continue that momentum, because it is the first game of the Premier League on the weekend, that 12:30 kickoff. How will that play into City's hands when they do have a European trip tomorrow? Well, they're at home, but a European game tomorrow, shall I say, at home to Atalanta, and we're going to be looking at all those European games and the Christmas fixtures. But as always, we're talking City. Get involved. Are we talking sense or are we talking nonsense? Either way, you can tell me and Paul, only if it's good though. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us 0208 70 20 558. Paul, we have to keep it City, but we're going to steer the ship over a little bit. We're going to talk about VAR, because at the start of the season, whether you were for VAR, or let me ask you, are you a fan of VAR or not so much?
I was very much in favour of VAR at the beginning of the season.
Which tells me, Paul, there's been a slight change.
Well, it's just the way it's being used in the Premiership. I mean, I think it's outrageous the way it's being used, because I don't think there's been one decision, other than the offsides that have been given to overrule goals, or a handball, which has happened on a couple of occasions. The fouls in the penalty area, none of them are being overruled against the referee, or when the referee gives it. Of course, the referees aren't even going to the monitor to look at them. There was a couple at the weekend which, to me, there were stonewall penalties. De Bruyne getting shoved over in the box.
I agree.
I mean, anywhere else on the pitch, that's a free kick. Now, I think it was Michael Oliver was the VAR official. How he can look at that and not either call it as a penalty or tell Taylor to go and look at the monitor. There's something. The referees need to come out and explain to us, the paying pundit, why they're not overruling the decisions. Because in the World Cup, it was used properly, and that's why I became a fan of it.
And the problem with the VAR is now, I know because everyone's worrying, VAR takes too long, it stops the flow of the game, it's taking several minutes. So now in the VAR room, the VAR room, not the war room, someone's giving the decision in the ear. The ref should be watching and going over to have a look himself. Whereas ultimately, his subjective view, is becoming redundant because someone in the screen's watching it. But what if he should be the final say? What if he thinks it was a penalty, it was a handball? I know it's far off in the season now, but obviously I want to talk about the VAR, which did affect City in such a heavy way, and it was the Spurs game again, like it was last year in the Champions League, the Laporte handball. Strange decisions. But the problem for VAR, Paul, is that when we have stuff like this, it is so subjective. It was meant to be for clear and obvious areas. It is in its infancy, so we're going to have teething problems. But when the ones aren't black and white, when it's not so obvious, where are we going wrong here?
Well, surely the right way to do is, if it isn't black and white, and there are some decisions or some challenges that aren't as clear cut as we'd like them to be. And surely on those occasions you go with the ref's on-field initial decision. So if he gives a penalty and the VAR has a look at it and it's debatable, you stick with the penalty. If he doesn't give the penalty, you don't give it, you don't overrule him. Where it's black and white, where he's clearly handballed it or tripped the player, then you give a penalty. But I'm seeing nothing of that at all. It's just whatever the on-field referee gives, that's it. It doesn't matter what VAR then sees. It's just ridiculous.
It does feel ridiculous, and I feel like I was similar to yourself in a way that at the start of the season, very much in favour of VAR. If it was going to not just help your own team, but if we want clear and obvious errors out, whether it costs your team a point or gives them all free, you don't want teams being robbed or justice. But I feel like since this second international break, Paul, the wind has really changed, and I know the Twitter sphere is not the greatest places to be at all times, but every fan now seems to be very against VAR, and all of a sudden, in this one weekend since the Premier League's been back, I feel like there was more wrong results by VAR than there was in maybe the first 6-7 weeks. They said that they'd fixed it, they were going to look at it more. There was a couple that they missed in the first break, but now this weekend we're seeing the handball, the Man United, the Liverpool game. It just feels like, if possible, we've taken a backward step. Does it feel like that to you?
It feels we've not corrected anything at best. I mean, there were two incidents that I can recall at the weekend. The Leicester-Burnley, where it came off the Evans, the Leicester defender, and he fell over. He did get caught, but he was going in the net anyway.
Yeah.
Even
it was his own fault. It should have been a Burnley goal, shouldn't it?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Should have stood. And Watford should have got a penalty against Tottenham the weekend as well.
That was stonewall.
I don't understand it. It's really it was so obvious. It was, if the De Bruyne incident was like a 99% penalty, that was a 99.99% penalty. It's baffling.
Yeah, well, it is the City fan show. Let's bring it back to City and VAR, because the De Bruyne one, and I've got a good friend, and I really hope he's listening. I believe he is. He texted me today. I said, I'm doing the City show, and he said, De Bruyne, not a penalty. He looked for it, and he made a meal of it. And I texted him back. I said, no way, I think it was a penalty. Genuinely, not just because I'm doing the City fan show. I genuinely believe that was a penalty. But I'm bringing that up because, for an instant, even in that, me and a friend is so subjective. He believes it wasn't. I believe it. And there shouldn't be this conscientious decision, really. We should know it's either this or it's that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I can't see how he was looking for it. Zaha just ran straight into him. He just ran into him and bundled him over. All players, yeah, of course they might look for a penalty if they think a push or a shove is coming, but that was more than it. He just ran into him and knocked him over.
It was interesting. It was Zaha, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I found that interesting. Someone who wins a lot of penalties and is often moaning that he's done the fouling. It was quite. If the shoe was on the other foot and at Selhurst Park, we might have seen it afforded a different way.
Yeah, could have done. The referee might have gone with a home crowd and given the penalty, and then I dare say the VAR official, I think it was Oliver, wouldn't have overruled that either. So he would have given the penalty and it would have stayed.
Yeah, VAR, it's such a strange one. I don't know where we go, and we're going to talk about City in Europe in a minute. Another problem with the VAR, and not just for City, all the European teams, the VAR, the system we're using, is different to the one they're using in the Champions League, different to the one they're using in Serie A. If football's this global, universal game, one that we all play in the World Cup and Europe's competitions, how can we abide by different rule sets, Paul?
That's bizarre as well. I mean, it should be the same rules. And I know European referees tend to not let some of the challenges go that we might expect in the Premier League, but VAR should be standardised throughout the European world football as best it can. We all have to abide by the same logic, the same rules, the same interpretations. And I get that there's human beings involved, both on the pitch and in the VAR studios, but it's got to be close and better. And I think the Referees Association, I think it's run by Riley, owes us, as a playing spectator, an explanation as to what is going on and why it's not working as well as it should, because it isn't.
Well, this is the problem, and I always thought, we're never allowed to hear from refs after the game. They don't get interviewed. The managers obviously can't talk about refs because they'll be fined, that's another conversation for another day. But there should be maybe a head spokesman, like you just said there, who can come out and straight away, or even in the studio, say, I've just been in the VAR room, this is why this is. And even if we still don't agree with it, I go, right, well, this is your reasoning. If I agree or don't agree, I can now maybe see where you come from, I understand it, because if we're carrying on in this darkness, we're walking in this darkness, Paul, we're going to hear whether me and you agree on the De Bruyne penalty or not. We don't know. This is the problem. So we could talk about it for hours on end, but ultimately neither of us know what is a penalty and what is not, what is offside, what is handball, because now the rules, they're falling into the grey area, aren't they?
They are, and I guess I agree with you that they should come out and explain it. The problem would be, I'll go back to the De Bruyne incident as well. I'll keep on that one. That Riley would come out and say it wasn't a penalty because De Bruyne looked for it. I'm just giving an example. Say, he'll defend the VAR, who defends the referee on the field, as opposed to saying anything against them. So, but we do need to understand where they're drawing the line. The bar of changing the decision is so high nowadays. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the things I don't like, and it's not being said too much, is people say, oh, it's only when it's against your team. No. I'm not a City fan. This was a penalty. Watford should have had a penalty. This should have been a goal. It's nothing to do with your team, because sooner or later it will be your team. We're talking about from an outside perspective, even though this is the Man City fan show. I think, Paul, me and you could talk about VAR a lot longer, so I'm going to move us off and get back to City, because they are back in Champions League action this week. They place Atalanta, and it's all going the cuts, because after that they got Villa on the weekend. Then they have Southampton twice in 3 days, once in the Cup and once in the League. So big games there, both at home. We're going to be looking at all of them.
This is Love Sport.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com when it came for this year's renewal. I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realize that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Love Sport.
You are listening to the Man City Fan Show, or the Man City Show podcast with me, Charlie Hawkins, right here on Love Sport Radio, and there is still time to get involved. Me and Paul want to hear from you tonight. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us 0208 70 20 558. Well, we've been putting the bed, we've been all talking about VAR and all of the problems that it's been giving us, and we've also been talking a little bit about the game on the weekend to Crystal Palace and how a professional performance that was, and what a professional performance it was. A superb performance from the side to get those 3 points after the international break. Now, Lo, let's turn our attentions to Europe. It is Atalanta on Tuesday. It's a big game because Atalanta are doing well, and any game in the Champions League is a big one, and you want to keep that momentum from the win on the weekend and obviously take that confidence. How are you feeling, Paul, ahead of this one?
Well, it's the sort of game that home to Atalanta. They've lost their first 2 Champions League games. 4-0 away in Zagreb, 2-1 at home to Shakhtar with a late winner that Shakhtar got. I'd like to think we can win it. We should be winning it. We're a better team, I'd like to think, than Atalanta. I must admit I don't know a lot about them, but they're doing okay in the Italian league again, 3rd this season.
That's what I mean. I want people to know, when I said they were doing well and then you straight away said they've lost both their opening games 4-0, I meant in Serie A. But they are doing well in league form. It's just not carried over for them.
No, it hasn't. And I'd like to think City can win. And if we get the win tomorrow, that's 9 points. Close to getting through. You can't be through after 3 games, but it'll be a great start. And I think it's just a matter of what team Pep will put out there. He does need a little bit of rotation, I think, but these are the sort of games that you want to put to bed early on, get a couple of goals, like we did against Palace, and then hopefully just play it professionally in the second half without breaking our going all out for it to make it 3-4-5-0, because effectively at 2-3-0, 3-0 would be nice. If you can rest a little bit more, because we've got all these games coming up. Three games very soon after it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, because you have got a lot of games coming up before the next international break. Always around Christmas, the winter pile up always happens anyway. The fixtures get congested. But 2 things that may be positive for City fans. Weirdly, I don't know quite how it's happened. 4 games at home, Paul, which always helps.
It does, because there's obviously then no travelling, state the obvious. The 4 games came out, I guess, there was just the way the league fixtures came out. Obviously, from time to time, you get 2 away games on the run, you get 2 home games on the run. So we got 2 home games on the run on the Saturday, Southampton and Villa this weekend, then Southampton the following weekend. Then we drew Southampton in the League Cup, Carabao Cup, whatever it's called nowadays. And
then your Champions League was at home.
So
yeah.
That's the way it goes. Those cup games could have both been away, but they're not, so it's 4 on the run at home.
It is 4 on a run at home. That could help to the results, the confidence. You get those 4. You've already won on the weekend. That's 5. And we spoke about, you said, oh, well, it's only 3 games if we get the result. 9 points. We're not obviously qualified after 9, but they say 9-10 is normally enough to qualify. It won't be enough for City because they want to win the group so they get a better seeding in the next round. But if they go on and win the 4th game, let's say 12 points from 4, that helps with the fixtures, because then potentially in games 5 and 6, Pep can play, I don't want to say a weak side, but a weaker side, maybe give Foden a chance that we're going to come on to and speak about, give the youngsters a chance, and that helps for the games on the weekend, because he doesn't have to take some of the stars to, these places like Zagreb, travel them all that way, do the air miles, because, ultimately they're dead rubbers and City have qualified.
Ideally, that's where I'd like to get to, that you win the Atalanta. It's Atalanta at home, then the next game 2 weeks later is Atalanta away. I'd like to think, all City fans would, I'm sure, win both those, 12 points in the bag. You're not guaranteed top place, you're guaranteed qualification by that stage, but you probably, it depends on the other results. We could be guaranteed top place by then if the other results go the right way. I think 2 draws would get us there in the other games. But we just need to be able to take it a little bit easier towards Christmas, because we've got the horrible Christmas fixture list now came out, and it's just diabolical for City.
Well, it's diabolical for a lot of teams. I know a lot of teams aren't happy. Chelsea as well, playing 8:15 on Boxing Day. They're not happy about fans travelling as well, but these are other issues. This is the City one. When we say they could be dead rubbers, that's not always, I don't know if you'll agree with me here, Paul, it's fair to say, you'll know more. It's not always Pep's style, is it, to rest players? Sometimes when City have qualified in the past, we go, we might see Sterling or De Bruyne not play here, and then he will rest some, but then Aguero will be starting. He doesn't rest completely, does he?
I guess you're right there. The issue is, it's not an issue, we have a very good squad. We've got a deep squad that we go to sort of, a lot of supporters say you could put a second team out that would be pretty competitive in the Premier League.
It's what Mourinho famously said, didn't he? He said the 4 teams that are challenging for the league this year, he went Man City A, Man City B, Spurs and Liverpool obviously weren't there, but Man City A and Man City B, it's quite true, isn't it? Although you don't want to gloat, but Paul is a very strong 22.
It is, and therefore if he does rest half a team, he puts another half team in that would get him most Premier Division teams as well, so that's why it still looks strong. But you're right. We're really, as we're coming up towards the really rushed game, the lots of games coming up, you do need to start resting players. And Pep did say when these fixtures came out, I think we're playing Wolves on the 27th of December, Sheffield United on the 29th of December, 48 hours later, then Everton on the 1st of January. So 3 games in 5 days, actually. And you compare that to And this might sound like I'm moaning, but Liverpool have got 7 days for their 3 games, which it just seems a little bit unfair that 2 teams both challenging for the Premiership, and let's be honest about it, they're likely to be the 2 teams that will challenge. Why do Liverpool get any advantage? It's just unfair.
Yeah, it is unfair, and not to a sense that I'm saying that Liverpool have been given an advantage. It probably is the way it's falling, because then we're saying there's conspiracies and corruption and theories, and we won't buy into them just yet, Paul. But when you do look at fans, when you do look at things like this, and all fans do, because I'm one of them. However it is, you could be, Arsenal playing the Europa League on Thursday, then we're playing away again on Sunday, and fans look at things like this, and it's just the way the fixtures go. Like City of 4 home games now, but we know that the league or the TV companies roughly know, who's going to be in contention, which teams are in certain competitions. Why do City, play 3 and 5 when Liverpool play 3 and 7? And people could go, oh, it's only a day here or there, 36 hours maybe difference, but 36 hours for recovery, fatigue and fitness over a busy congested Christmas fixture list can make all the difference, Paul. Why do things like this happen? And the answer will be, oh, well, the TV companies say it, but the TVs want the fittest players, they want the freshest players, because they want the game to be the highest quality.
Exactly, and all they needed to do, and I'm not sure which one's on Sky, which one's on BT, but effectively, if they'd switched the City Everton from 1st of January with Liverpool Sheffield United on the 2nd of January, nobody would have had a complaint. If we'd have played on the 2nd and them on the 1st, then we'd both be playing 3 games in the same period of time. And that's the way it should be. They should look at that and be fair to both teams. Had it gone the other way around and Liverpool playing 3 games in our period, Klopp would have been onto it as well. And it's not good for the players. That's why we get injuries. You've got players playing 3 games in that short space of time. Not good.
It's not good. When you mentioned Klopp there, it just made me think, because obviously the last few years, City and Liverpool have been way out in front. There's been a gulf between the chasing pack, because really, if I can say, there hasn't been a chasing pack, because Chelsea, United, Spurs, Arsenal, all going through a transition of sorts. City and Liverpool have largely, well, they've led the way. So because when it is those 2, and they are heavyweights, we've seen what the title race was last year, both going deep into the Champions League, obviously Liverpool winning, City getting to the quarterfinals. Is there now of sorts, because there wasn't really before, maybe I'm wrong here, a little rivalry going on between the 2? Because you mentioned there, and I know it's all true, but Liverpool have got 7 days, we've got 5. Oh, and Klopp would be moaning, and we're talking about Pep. Is there a little thing now between fans where, maybe more so because you used to be so United City, but at the minute slightly developing between Liverpool and City?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think it started probably a couple of seasons so back when we played them in the Champions League, where when we went to Anfield that day, and some of their fans, not all of them, but a fair number of them, threw stones, etc., at the team coach, which is outrageous. City fans got really upset about it, and that started a little bit more of the rivalry. And last season, they really did push us as well. At one point in it, every single time we went to play, we knew we had to win, because Liverpool, more often than not, had played just before us and had got their win. So we knew we had to win every single game on the run. We did it. And they're very strong. They've got a great team at the moment. I'm not sure the depth of their team is as good as ours. And they haven't had as many injuries. Yes, Salah didn't play at the weekend, but if they lost a couple of their centre-halves, I'd like to see them manage as well as we have.
Yeah, and I think another key point in any title race, and you just touched upon it there, is when a team plays on Saturday and you play on a Sunday, that team on Saturday wins. There was pressure anyway, because you're in a title race, you have to go and win your games. But it's just that little bit harder on Sunday, because they did win on Sunday, they didn't even pick up a point at so-and-so, they did get the 3 points. Now we definitely have to get the 3 points. That plays into a lot. We see it with Celtic and Rangers on Sunday. It's complete change with them 2, and that can add into a title race, can't it?
Yes, it must have psychological impact on the players. I don't know how they manage it. I'm sure Pep and Klopp at the other side, they get to their squads, they tell them what they need to do. They probably have coaches in there that talk to them and say, get their mindset right. But it must play on them. I mean, we came towards the end of the season, and I remember right at the very end, the penultimate sort of games, when Liverpool got a 3-2 win at Newcastle, and then we played Leicester, but for a wonder goal by Company with about 15 minutes or so to go, who knows what would have happened. We might have got a winner somewhere else, but we we needed something special, and that kept our winning run going. And psychologically, that just keeps bolstering you all along.
Yeah, I think psychologically and mentally in any title race, those two things are key components. That's why with City winning on the weekend and maybe Liverpool dropping points, we're just seeing it slightly turning, because it can be now City. They will take that confidence and that momentum. Will they take it into the weekend's game? Because they are facing Aston Villa in the early kick-off Saturday at 12:30. Someone who know a little bit more than us, it is Luke Hatfield.
I gave Kim Jong-un the upper hand, but only a tiny one.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Kenna, men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're right.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at the message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport. The opposition view on Love Sport.
That's right. It's time for the opposition view on Love Sport Radio, and you are listening to the Man City Fan Show with a Man City Show podcast. We are talking everything where City is concerned, and it is right, because now we're talking about the Aston Villa game on the weekend, Saturday at 12:30, and Paul just said to me he doesn't like 12:30 kickoffs on Saturday, because if the result doesn't go your way, everyone else is still to play on the weekend. Your game is done and dusted, and you've got a bitter taste left in your mouth. Well, someone who is joining us now and will know a little bit more about the Villa side, ready to face City because they are on a good run, is Luke Hatfield, a digital sports writer for the Express and Star. Luke, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a little bit of your time. Aston Villa, back-to-back wins. Absolutely looking the part now under Dean Smith. A year roughly to the day that he's joined Villa. What a journey that's been. They certainly looking the part now, back in the Prem, finding their feet. Will they be fancying their chances on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, thanks for having me on. I mean, it's great to come on. Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for the past 12 months at Villa Park, but it's certainly been one the fans have enjoyed so far. They certainly will go into the game with some confidence. I'm not sure whether the team will fancy themselves. Well, they'll have a little bit of confidence, but the fans are kind of accepting that, this is a Man City side, Premier League champions, arguably one of the best teams in Europe right now. I think they're understanding the fact that they might go and they might get beat, but the one thing Villa will do is they certainly will come out and they will try and play against City. You're not going to see, 10, 11 men behind the ball. You're going to see a team who will try and harm City when they can, albeit if they're picking their moments.
Well, that's good to hear, because I much prefer teams to come and play a game against City than put 10 men behind the ball. You've had a couple of really good results recently. I mean, if you took the Norwich game where you went and absolutely annihilated them 5-1, you must feel fairly confident because they beat us at Carrow Road only a few weeks back. So based on your win there and them beating us, it should be easy for you, shouldn't it?
I don't think it'll be quite as easy as you're making out there. That Man City side, are very, very, very strong. I mean, you only need to look at the likes. You'll know more than I will about the quality in that side. Yes, Villa got a good result against Norwich. It was a very good one. Obviously, it lifted the mood around Villa Park because they'd had that win against Everton, but that Norwich really did kind of announce, Villa being back in the Premier League, and it's sort of like Jack Grealish really firing, and he's carried that on into the Brighton game over the weekend. That Norwich side were heavily undermanned, and you looked at that City result and you felt like it took a lot out of that Canaries team, and they've begun to struggle a little bit since, just purely because of the amount of injuries they've had. But no, it has buoyed Villa. They've got good results. They've started scoring goals. There's a bit of a feel-good factor around the club. We've seen Tyrone Mings get his England debut. He's been a player long time at Villa since he joined on loan back in January, and then permanently, of course, in the summer. So, there's a feel-good factor. They're understanding that these next two games, because, of course, after the City game, they face Liverpool at home, that it's going to be a tough ride for these two. But, they'll go into the games with confidence, and they'll certainly try and play.
I'm sure they will. I mean, I hope you do manage it against Liverpool, obviously, in the next game. What you've done, you've got a couple of very good results, but you've struggled a little bit on what traditionally might be classified as the bigger away games at Tottenham and Arsenal. Not that they're playing brilliantly at the moment, but do you feel that is when Villa are found out a bit when they come up against what are traditionally the bigger teams?
Yeah, well, I see where you're coming from there. Because opening day of the season, Villa were 1-0 up after 70 minutes or so against Spurs, and it looked like they were going to hold on and get a really good result there. But they just tired a little bit. Maybe a little bit of naivety came in that game. It was their first game back in the Premier League. A couple of mistakes led to the goals, which Harry Kane really did pounce upon. The Arsenal game was a little bit different. Villa seemed to be in control of that for 45, 50 minutes. Arsenal went down to 10 men first half, and you thought Villa could be onto a really good result here. But then, again, it was a matter of mistakes hurting Villa. They were let down slightly. There was a decision late on for a penalty, Socrates handball, which didn't go their way. And the VAR review, it looks quite a clear handball, but it wasn't given. It is a tough one though. When they're going away to these big teams and they're not picked up a result, so to speak. They'll want to try and do that, but they understand the position. They're a promoted side. The likes of Man City, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Spurs. Albeit, the latter two not having the best time of it so far this season. They understand that these games are going to be tough, but at the same time, they'll go in, they'll respect their opponents, and they'll try and do what they normally do, which is pick their moments, try and get forward, score a goal, and try and worry a team. Because we've seen with this Man City side, they'll look at the result against Wolves, for example, that it can be got at if you pick your moments and strike at the right times.
Yeah, I'm sure Villa will have a game plan and try to replicate what Wolves did against us. I just hope that we've learned from it as well, and therefore don't fall into the same sort of trap. And as long as we're up for the game and don't put on that sort of performance, I think we should give you let's say a good game. I'd like to think that we should be able to beat Villa. I mean, Villa have just been promoted. What are your aspirations though for this season? Are you looking just to finish above relegation, or do you think you can get towards mid-table?
It's an interesting one for Villa because those quotes from Dean Smith and the higher ups at Villa saying that survival in the Premier League wasn't really the main aim for them. Yes, it's the key aim this season because they've come up, they're promoted via the playoffs, and a lot of teams, will just look to survive in the Premier League first couple of seasons and then grow from there. But Villa really look at it as, they've spent a lot of money, they've committed a lot of money to this squad. They needed to do so over the summer. But I think their eyes are trying to finish slightly harder than that as opposed to just surviving in the Premier League. I think where, you see Villa finishing 14th or 13th, they'd be absolutely delighted with. Of course, there's no guarantees of that, but if they stay up, that's of course the core aim. But for Villa, I think they're trying to aim a little bit higher and, kind of emulate that Wolves style where, maybe not to the quality of Wolves, of course, last season, finishing in a Europa League spot, but trying to do what they did, come in and, express themselves in the Premier League and be comfortable in the Premier League.
Well, we've seen them on that 3-game unbeaten streak, back-to-back wins and a draw before that, and they've climbed their way, Luke, up to 12th in the table. Much better position for them. It's looking slightly a little bit rosier than the start of the season. Like you said, they will fancy their chances because they've seen the Norwich performance, the Wolves performance. A lot of teams think they can get at City this season, but Luke, we have to put you on the hot seat. Man City are at home. It is the early kickoff on Saturday. What is your score prediction for the weekend?
If I'm going for a score prediction, I'd say 3-1 City. I think Villa will come out and they will try and play their game. I just think this Man City side, you look at the likes of Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne, Sergio Aguero, Gabriel Jesus, so much quality. I think Villa will go out and they will give you an entertaining game. It won't be, as I said before, 10 men behind the ball, but I think City might just have a bit too much for them.
Might have a bit too much for him. Luke, a real pleasure to have you on the show. Luke Hatfield there, digital sports writer for the Express and Star. He is a Villa fan. He was saying, he was being honest though, Paul. He said 3-1 to City, although he thinks Villa will score, possibly a potential chance they maybe can hurt City. Before I get your score prediction, is there a chance Villa can get a result? Can they exploit any weakness that City have?
Yeah, of course they can. A football match between any two teams, well, not any two teams, but most teams of the same level, both in the Premier League, yeah, of course we could lose it. I'd like to think we've learned our lesson. How can they get at it? If depends on our defence and whether we miss our chances. As we said at the beginning of the programme, I think that if City play to their normal strength and create enough chances, we should win. I like the 3-1 prediction. I'll go with either 3-1 or maybe 4-1.
4-1, and then you're back in that. Well, I don't want to say back in the title race. You're in it anyway. It was never over, but I mean, you can make a statement because you're the early gamer, not Liverpool. You can cut that lead to 3 points, so it may be back on Liverpool. It may be an onus there, but are these the games now? And there's no disrespect because we look at the games that City have played against Norwich and Wolves, and we say, every game City should be winning. If you want to win titles, you want to qualify for Europe, you have to win those games. But these are the games you have to win. You lost them against Norwich and Wolves. But Aston Villa, another one where you want to put those wrongs right, don't you? Because you did, coming off this international break, you beat Palace 2-0. But now you want to do it at home as well and kick that form.
Yeah, we can't afford any more mistakes. Certainly at the moment, we've got to keep at least to 6 points. All we can do is keep winning. Hope that Liverpool do drop points. I would expect us to come out all guns blazing against Villa. Depends on their game plan, but we've got to look to win that game. There's no doubt about it. We've got to close that gap. And if we close it to 3 points, they've got Tottenham at home on Sunday, Liverpool, so see how they get on against them. It's a poor Tottenham team at the moment. There's obviously something going on, but all I can do is cheer Tottenham on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and also, you keep doing that, Paul. You wanted Man United to get that equaliser on the weekend. We can't cheer for anyone else. But very quickly, another thing which could play a factor in the Villa game, although we said that Man City's second 11 is so strong, you play tomorrow night. Aston Villa are fresh till the weekend, so sometimes Man City they're playing more games even though they are at home. We look towards the game on a quick weekend. Let's quickly look at the Atalanta game tomorrow. You're predicting a win there as well.
Again, like to think so, and I think if we play the way we've been playing more recently, I think that's, again, I'm not sure the strength of Atalanta, but I think we can win that one 2-0, 3-0.
Could this year be the year, Paul, for the Champions League?
We say that every year, so it could be. 4 years ago with Pellegrini, we got to the semi-finals and put up a lousy performance in Madrid when we lost 1-0, having drawn 0-0 at the Etihad. So every season is possible, and as we said a few moments ago, in cup football it is possible. Yes, we are one of the best teams in Europe, and there are 2 or 3 other teams that could do it as well, so I'd like to think we'll be there or thereabouts.
I certainly hope so and believe you can be, but we hear this phrase a lot, the window is closing. Is the window closing under Pep with this set of players, or if he's there it can always grow on?
I don't think the window for the City players is closing. It's how much appetite Pep has got to stay at the club. This is his 4th season. He's got a contract to the end of the 5th season. I'm not sure whether he'll want to renew it further. Nobody really knows. The players are a relatively young squad. Yes, we've got Aguero, we've got David Silva, who are, let's be honest, towards the end of their career. Certainly David Silva's retiring from City at the end of this season. Aguero said he'll probably leave at the end of next season when his contract expires. But beyond them, you've certainly got a relatively young squad. You've got Bernardo Silva, you've got Foden, you've got Sterling, you've got Mahrez, who's in his 20s, you've got Jesus, who's a brilliant footballer, and I think he's underrated. He doesn't get the chance. He's not an Aguero type player who'll score the goal. But he's a brilliant footballer, and it depends what happens with Sane as well. But we've got a very young team as well that can only get better. Yes, you need to put some new challenges and new players in there as well. So no, I think we'll go through phases. We won't be as successful as perhaps we were last season when we won the domestic treble, but we'll be there for a few more seasons challenging.
Domestic treble, what an achievement that was. Unbelievably, Paul, we didn't speak about Foden. We were saying all of that, but the Man City show, the goodness of it is every Monday there'll be always another show to talk about, and I think a name like Foden we're going to be speaking about for years to come, shows to come. Well, this was the Man City Fan Show with the Man City Show podcast, and it is always here on Monday on Love Sport Radio, 9 to 10. You can tune in for all your City conversation, and we want to hear from you, so make sure you join us next Monday. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. We'll be hoping for a win in the Champions League tomorrow, then getting those 3 points to Villa on the weekend so we can discuss it and make it a very happy Monday. Next up, it is Villa.
This is Love Sport.
You're in league, kid, you're in league.